Alright guys, time to grab it back again today. Hope you're enjoying your day so far, and a lot has happened in the past 24 hours. Today we're going to talk about gentlemen's agreements once again rearing their ugly head, but today it's not necessarily too much about the pros, it's the amateur community which has decided the AK47 is just too strong and needs to be gentlemen's agreemented out of the game, but the pros certainly have some other questionable GAs we're going to talk about in the coming minutes here. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel. Thank you much for doing that. Before we get on to the GA stuff, I wanted to talk about Treyarch actually doing a very much a stand-up job here at the start of the competitive rule set here in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So we saw a few days ago, like, pros were like, okay, what is this rule set? Why are the TAC rifles not banned? Why is Semtex banned? They have now unbanned the Semtex, but well, still, the tactical rifles are where they once were, unbanned in the CDL rules as it is right now, which I imagine maybe will come in coming days, given the pros certainly don't think they should be in competitive. That is a gentleman's agreement that is currently in place, where the pros kind of come together and decide, look, okay, this is too strong, it's not good for competitive integrity, it's, well, makes the game boring to play because everyone's just using the same weapon or whatever it might happen to be. That's kind of when they come together and say, okay, this should be removed, this should be changed to make the gameplay the best it possibly can from a competitive perspective. But I think sometimes they can go too far, but you can argue that the M16 one is justifiable and the AUG one in this situation. Treyarch also come out a couple of days ago with some spawn adjustments that they say have adjusted the hardpoint spawn logic, even though I think MattG was saying that really it's just as bad as it ever was, and you know, adjusted some enemy waiting response. We'll have to see how this goes going forwards, but I am certainly impressed the fact that Treyarch within the first couple of weeks here are making some significant improvements to competitive play. Crone also spotted this over on Crossroads Strike, where you can contest this hill from outside, but not too long at all after Crone posted this on his Twitter, they actually issued a hotfix to actually fix this, right? So addressed an issue in Crossroads Strike which allowed players to contest a hardpoint and control zone outside of the intended objective boundary. So that's now been fixed. However, there are some other ones, as RevTheAR says here on, this is on Checkmate, this, well, this hill you can lay down next to this thing and you can contest it from here. And Crone mentions Tony Flame, Matt Sconce and Vonderhaar in this one, and Matt Sconce immediately comes back to say he's going to get on fixing that. So I'm certainly impressed with the job that Treyarch is doing so far, but certainly some additional steps that need to be taken in some elements, and I certainly believe the amateur community would argue that the AK47 needs to be nerfed to some degree. I'm not so sure that that is the case. So let's talk about this. Looty then says over at the European region, this was a few days ago now, that they're going to be running with their, well, these GAs that we're going to look at in a second, with the top 12 seeded teams all agreeing to them, and that is as follows. AK47 is GA'd no laser sight, only allowed 3 trophies, 1 smoke grenade in respawns, 2 smoke grenades in search and destroy, tactical rifles are gone, perk greed is gone, gearhead is gone, and score streaks are all gone as well. So these are the GAs that they were running with. I believe a number of these are kind of copied over into the, well, the professional scene, to be honest. Tac rifles gone, score streaks gone. We're going to talk about a funny little, well, smoke thing in a couple of minutes time here, but certainly the different regions and the different levels of competition are playing with different gentlemen's agreements, which seems kind of strange, right? Like, if you're an amateur player, to me, you should probably be following what the pros are doing, just because the pros are going to be playing with this stuff, I imagine, in the league. Then again, Zinx does come out with an interesting argument in a second here to say that, look, their events aren't starting until mid-January time, whereas ours are actually starting very shortly with these Challengers Cups. So we kind of, well, we want to decide first what we're going to be playing with. But really interesting to me that they decide to get rid of the AK47, because compared to the Krig, for example, is it really that good? There's no doubt the AK47 is a great weapon, it's a great assault rifle, but to be quite honest, maybe it's the more do-it-all weapon of the weapons that we have in the game right now. When you look at the stats, it's not actually so dominant compared to something like the Krig. And what has to be noted is that especially in the, well, the professional side, Atlanta FaZe have been the ones really dominating scrims these past couple of weeks. They've been a team using pretty much only the Krig. They've just used exclusively the Krig as their assault rifle. I think like 3 Krigs, 1 MP5 in the hands of a BZ is what they've been running. That, of course, isn't an ideal meta. I'd love to see 2 MP5s, or maybe the AK-74U comes into effect to at least be viable, to the point where we actually have an interesting and diverse meta this year that isn't completely AR dominated. But they've been using the Krig, right? And you've got Claysty, you've got guys like Slasher using the Krig pretty much exclusively, and having great success against a number of players using the AK-47. So, yeah, is it really that strong? That's a question you can ask. You know, MattG says, like, they've gone rogue, as, well, according to the Lintel suggests they've gone rogue. MattG says, like, you've seen the gun, like, it's super strong. And Stanley says, look, Triumph is using the AK-47 since professional players have not GA'd it yet. Good luck. So there's been these tournaments going on, and Triumph, which is, well, General's team, we're going to look at one of his responses here in just a second, decided that, look, the pros haven't GA'd it out of the game. We're just going to keep using the AK-47 as they are, well, some of them are, most of them are using the Krig though right now, because it seems like the Krig is the way to go. And from my personal experience, the AK47 feels a bit stronger up close, but the Krig shoots arrows straight, and honestly, in most situations, I'd prefer to have a Krig than an AK47. I think a lot of the pros do agree. So it's interesting to see the conflict, I suppose, between the two communities. Center says my team is most likely using it as well. We'll be a top 4 seed. I don't know who set these GAs, but I don't think we should play different rules than the Pro League. You know, Celtics says literally for one tournament, and then Simp comes back, of course, on the Atlanta FaZe team that we just talked about using only the Krigs pretty much. He says, look, the AK47 isn't even overpowered. You are all trolling. Josh, though, from the European like amateur side says, look, I'll give it a few weeks before your opinion on this has changed. And General on that Triumph team on loan from the, I was going to say the Huntsman's bench, from OpTic Chicago's bench. Even if I think the AK can be cheesy, I'm not going to get rid of it when League players are still using it. I'm fine with either rule set, but I'm not playing 2 different rule sets leading up to the first cup, whether that be in tournaments and or scrims. Just using common sense on this one. Just ban the damn lasers and we are chilling, kind of as they did over the European side. So number of conflicts really here between what's going on. And then Craig comes out a few minutes later and says, look, 45 minutes later, North American chances have decided actually the AK47 is back in the game. So everybody knows. I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts on the comment section below on what you think is actually stronger here. And as Zinx then comes out and says, look, we wanted to GA the AK for a single tournament until the weapon tuning update, implying that very shortly indeed there's going to be a significant weapon tuning update to the game. I've heard similar things as well. So I think in a few days' time, Trek are giving a big overhaul to what the weapons look like. Certainly we're going to be covering that on the channel when everything does become official and the implications for competitive play. But well, maybe they think the AK is getting nerfed. They think other weapons are going to get worse or better. Or maybe the FFAR gets toned down. Maybe the SMGs get buffed or something like that. Definitely going to be a big deal, I imagine, if this does come true. But they wanted to GA it for a single tournament before this supposed weapon tuning update comes into effect. I believe Trek will follow through on this. You guys might remember that Slasher and Aches have talked at quite some length how they weren't really practicing at the start of Modern Warfare because they heard that like a major competitive overhaul was coming, which just never arrived. But I imagine this year they actually are going to go through with that. Trek, as we talked about at the start of the video, seems to be on top of things. But we're definitely not saying go against the pro GAs. We definitely should be on the same rule set, but they don't play until January, while we play in 10 days. So for teams to go rogue because of that makes no sense. But as Center says, look, I'm watching Slasher and Clay dominate using a Krig against AKs. I'm watching FaZe just like not lose an entire scrim map with using Krigs. No point GAing the AK if it isn't OP. If it was like the FFAR, I'd get it, but we have to follow pro rules. And EasyMac yesterday comes out with some of the statistics across the board. So we'll have a look through some of these just to see some of the differences. So the base damage on the AK is higher than the Krig, but the range, as you can see, is lower, so 38.1. Then again, like these values can change quite significantly with some of the barrel attachments you can put on. Effectively, you can increase these ranges to like almost infinite with some of the barrel attachments, to the point where these ranges are realistically never going to get overtaken. So the AK47, I'm pretty sure you can make it a 4-shot kill out to like 100 or so meters if you just put on one of those longer barrels. The fire rate though is lower on the AK than the Krig. The bullet velocity is also lower, which is quite a significant factor in this game. But then again, there's barrels you can put on which increase your bullet velocity, which is clearly a key thing to have. Also, like the shooting move speed, and then the recoil is obviously better on the Krig than it is on the AK if you guys are used it. So it's certainly a bit of an interesting one. I think there is certainly some personal preference going on between the two. Personally, I kind of prefer the Krig, but I've always kind of liked those low recoil, not necessarily super hard hitting weapons, whereas the AK is a little bit more bouncy around, but it does seem to hit a bit harder up close. So it's an interesting one between the two. In my opinion, it's kind of personal preference. It seems like a lot of the pros are actually leaning towards the Krig. So to me, it's kind of surprising that a lot of the amateurs are like, okay, the AK-47 is way too strong. We're just going to get rid of it until this, the update, which is coming soon. And as GodRx says then, so we've gone through the video and so talked about how the pros are the good guys in this one, right? They're not actually banning anything from competitive play as yet. This was kind of a funny one that GodRx came out with. Thanks to Austin for pointing this out to me. Your main AR has to run the smoke now. What a gentleman's agreement. So saying that in respawns, as we looked at, you're only allowed to run one smoke grenade. But GodRx is saying the pros have decided that AR, well, it's your AR who has to run the smoke grenade, right? Which is kind of funny. Not really sure how much difference this would even make in the game, but the idea is that the SMGs can't just run around, drop a smoke at their feet and run into a hard point. It's your AR who has to run it from behind or whatever, which is a crazy GA. I mean, it's difficult to control, I suppose, if it was actually going to be implemented somehow into the CDL rule full set, which probably wouldn't be possible, but it's kind of funny. And as Gonorek says, like, really makes a difference, kind of sarcastically saying, like, what is the point in us doing this? And just to finish out the video with this funny thing, we looked a couple of days ago that Parasite, Neptune Blast, and Decimator looking for an org on the challenger side. You guys might remember back in this season when I think Zaptius and Parasite was hitting up Zaptius' girl in the DMs or whatever during a mid-tournament when they were teaming together. And as Decimate says, yo, like, at Decimate's girlfriend, block Parasite on Twitter just so, well, he doesn't do anything like that to tear our team apart. But yeah, I thought that's pretty entertaining. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below on these gentlemen's agreements. Do you think it goes too far? What gun do you think is better? And I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.